The purpose of this video is to demonstrate how you would utilize a pool of questions that can be created to be deployed to an assessment or a test that is utilized in an online course in Blackboard. I'm going to utilize a demonstration course here. The first thing I would like to do is to go down to my course management category and hit the triangle in front of course tools, which would then allow me to scroll down and find the Test, Surveys, and Pools menu. When I click on Test, Surveys, and Pools, I now have links to the three different areas here under this menu. Pools are simply sets of questions that are later added to tests. They store questions and can be reused in more than one test. That is the benefit of using a pool to create a set of questions, the ability to reuse it in more than one test. I'm going to click the Pools menu link here. At this point, I can begin to build my pool of questions. I'm going to click the Build Pool button. I do need to name each one of my pools. For this video, I'm going to use a rather generic name. We will simply call this Chapter 3 Questions. The description and the instructions can also be utilized later on at other points in Blackboard. So you may choose to describe and put instructions associated with this test bank, this pool of questions, but you do not have to at this point. I'm going to go ahead and click my Submit button. I now have a pool created, but no test questions inside the pool. The Create Questions menu is where I will start. Notice I have a significant number of question types that I can choose from. I'm going to start by demonstrating a simple true and false question added to our pool. The question title and the question text. The question text is what a student will see when they are taking the test. The question title is what an instructor will see when they're looking over the pool of questions that they have created. My pro tip is to put the question text in and then copy and paste that in as your question title. It makes it much easier as an instructor later on when you're looking at your list of questions to know what each question is asking. In this case, the question text that I'm going to have right here, I'm going to actually utilize a test bank that has been given to me in a Word document form. I could type my questions from scratch, or if I already have my questions available on a separate document, I can simply copy and paste from that separate document. Here is a Word document that contains my question. I'm simply going to copy my question here from my document. I'm then going to paste it in as my question text, and I'm going to paste that in as my question title. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to set my options for my answer orientation, choosing vertical or horizontal. The correct answer is true. If the correct answer is false, I would change it to false. I can give feedback to my students by choosing to type the correct response feedback they would see if they got the question correct when they answered and submitted, or I can give them feedback that they would see if they chose incorrectly on this question when they submit their answer. I can add categories and keywords to further identify this question if I should so choose. I can also include notes to myself associated with this particular question. I have two options. One option is submit and create another. If I wanted to create another true and false question, I would click create, submit, and create another. If I'm going to only create this true and false question, and my next question is going to be a different style, I can simply click the submit button. The pool now has one question. At this point, here is the question. Notice there's no point value assigned yet. I can go ahead and type a 1 or a 2 or whatever point value I'd like in the default point value. Hit the green check mark to accept that. Now this question has a default point value of 1 for the question when it is asked. Let's add another question. I'm going to go to question type. Let's, in this case, do a multiple choice test question. Again, I'm going to utilize the same significant time savings as what I did with the other question by copying from an existing test that is already typed up. Here is my question. I'm simply going to copy that from my document. I'm going to paste that in as my question text and as my question title. When I scroll down, I'm going to choose my answer numbering style as uppercase letters. My answer orientation I'm going to leave at vertical. I have options for partial credit or show answers in random order if I should so choose to check those off. I'm going to leave the number of choices at 4. I'm then going to take each one of the possible choices and type it into or paste it into the answer choice boxes here. Now that I've added my 4 choices in, I also need to indicate which choice is the correct answer. For this particular question, the correct answer is the 4th choice. Now that I've clicked on answer 4 and the correct button here, again, I have feedback options for this this question that I can show to my students. I can establish categories and keywords and instructor notes to myself. I can go ahead and hit my submit button, and now my pool has 2 questions. I can establish a default number of points for this question by typing in the same area here the default point value. I would repeat this process over and over until I've established all of the questions that are in my pool. In particular, these are pool questions that I want for my Chapter 3 test that I eventually will have. I hope you found this video helpful as a means of creating a pool of questions. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for the next video in this series, how to utilize pools of questions to create and deploy tests.